Hey kids, it's Jurassic James and Jurassic James looking at Elaphosaurus. So I went to Kroger's to get like, I don't know, water or something, and I saw this in a toy aisle and I was like, well, we have to have that, of course. And so Elaphosaurus means slender lizard. It was found in the late Jurassic, it lived in the late Jurassic period. It was first discovered in 1910. Now, I often talk about the Morrison Formation, which is North America. You know, those guys include, well, the animals found there include Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus, Stegosaurus, Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, Camarasaurus, those guys, right? That would have been in today Colorado and Wyoming. So this area right here, so North America. Now, this guy's found in Tanzania in the Tungura Formation, which is modern Tanzania, is like right there. Now, again, they're kind of far apart in time and space, but I'll point out that during the late Jurassic, Pangea just began to break apart in the early Jurassic, so the continents were closer together at the time that these guys lived. So, what's the big deal with this guy is, one, it's an animal, it's one of those animals that we in paleontology know about it, but the public doesn't know about it, so I'm excited with the toy for that reason, but also I'm like, why this guy? Anyway, so here we have the official scissors Jurassic James. There we go. And we're going to, and for safety reasons, we seat them. And so there we go. Box is now trashed. So looking at the figure, I'll point out that these figures are not scientifically accurate. I mean, it is a theropod. It is slenderly built, but I'm going to go more over the actual classification and the features more. But the first thing I'm going to point out is, I know we seem to show you, like in documentaries, you'll see these dinosaurs in Arizona, North America. And then I go to, well, Colorado and Jurassic. And, you know, the Arizona ones are the Triassic, then North America Jurassic, then Europe, early Cretaceous, and then back to North America. You know, the stories are being played all over the world. So we have the Morrison in North America, we have this, and they're kind of similar mirroring environments. So before I go over the anatomy, I want to use the anatomy to tie to why we think it's related to who we think it's related to. But I want to point out the environment first, and the idea here is that we have, if you were going to that area, now I'm going to show you a Papo version and a Jurassic World version, because I know there's two, I realize that I have two camps of fans. One are many children watching with their parents, and they're like, hey, Jurassic World toys are awesome. And two, there are many adults who are adult collectors who are like, this toy I have, what? Tell me more about the science of this thing. So let's try to do both things at once. So first and foremost, if you didn't know, I think I touched this in my Brachiosaurus video, the Jurassic World Brachiosaurus is actually has physically more in common with the Giraffatitan. So Brachiosaurus is found in North America. Lucititan, their cousin, is found in the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal, Spain, that area. And Giraffatitan is actually found from this environment. So there's only one Giraffatitan figure I'm aware of right now. It is a PNSO figure, and it's super expensive. So for this analogy, I'm showing you the Papo Brachiosaurus. Now I will point out that in Papo, when you look at this, there's no name on the belly. Like Safari will tell you, like, this is a name, what year it's made, and I think a measurement sometimes. Papo is like very elite, like you should know what it is if you're buying it. So here's a Papo example. Of course, the Jurassic World example is a Brachiosaurus that I love so much. This guy here, or this gal here. Also found that in this, so we have Elaphosaurus living with this guy. Another example is a very, I did a video on this already once. It was the Kentrosaurus when I got, wait for it. This figure here. And so here's a Papo Kentrosaurus. Here's the Jurassic World version from Camp Cretaceous. So again, this guy is found exclusively there. Now, Stegosaurus, for example, is found in North America, and they believe that they're a specimen in Iberian Peninsula. This guy found only here. So it's kind of a big deal that you found this environment and its, ecology mates. Next we have the Allosaurus. Now, there is no, okay, officially the genre Allosaurus is not found in this environment, but they found some kind of Allosaurid thing. So it's kind of like how if you look at a wolf and a dog and a coyote, and they're very similar, but there's different species there, right? Or different subspecies or genus familiars, subspecies. So the idea is that there's some kind of Allosaurid thing living there. It's not Allosaurus we know in North America, but it's similar, so it counts, right? And of course, the last thing in the Jurassic World toy world will be the Ceratosaurus. And so I have this one from Papo as well, and this one here. But actually, I just realized something. I've done 2 videos on Ceratosaurus, so I can't justify opening another one. Oh, but wait, that's green, that's red. Why does that matter? I don't know. Did I want to open a toy on the camera? Could it be that? So we're calling back into action the Scissors Jurassic James just for this one color joke. Oh, forgot the teeth. And we're gonna cut. I was in Ross, the clothing resale, I guess, store, and they have a toy department. And I did not. I saw this green Ceratosaurus, and I wasn't going to pay for it full price. So I have so many Ceratosauruses at the like Walmart, Target, but then seeing it here for only $12. Okay, whatever. So anyway, that's to plug in here. We've done this before, so there's a video on this guy. Anyway, so Ceratosaurus is definitely found in Convergent Africa. So these are the animals that this guy would live with. So if you're playing Jurassic World, I mean, there is no non-Jurassic World figure of this guy. So if you're gonna go for it, it's the only example. So these guys here can step aside because there is no example like them. There's no Elaphosaurus Pablo figure that I'm aware of. And so if you're playing Jurassic World and you want to do by environments, these guys are contemporaries in some environment that's where he's from. There are small ornithopods, like plant eaters, in the environment too, but there are no toys of them. So I have this Camptosaurus from, I believe, Safari. Yes. No. Collect A. Should have known that. Collect A. So again, not Camptosaurus in the environment, but they have other ornithopods like it, or smaller than it. So that's probably what it ate in this environment, because if you see, it's not going to be taking down sauropods or stegosauruses, and there's other large predators in the environment. So, and there was no sense of understanding that there's a lot of them. They're not like a huge horde of them, you know. So the idea is that they must be eating smaller things like this. Just a little side note. Now, that being said, we can move on to the next section of our talk. So I told you about the animals discovery a bit, where it falls in the family tree. Oh, we need you for later. And so the idea here is, where does it fall in the family tree and why? So looking at the body, it's kind of a mystery because no one quite understood where it fell in. Because it is a sauropod. No one questions that at this point. But when we first discovered it, they were like, let me explain. So I'll put a link in the description. I always put links, usually. On my Jurassic James webpage, there is a theropod dinosaur page where I have different dinosaur predator dinosaurs and grouping. So a lot of species I go over, I don't have every example of that species. Like I don't have every toy that species, but I have one member of each species, and they're classified by classification. And so, if for example, you would look at like, here are the bears. There's a panda, a polar bear, a brown bear. Here are the canids. We have a dog, a wolf. You know, a sheep, not sheep. I'll say sheep. We have a dog, a wolf, or a coyote. Here are the hoofed animals. But we have, like, for example, a sheep, a pig. You know, those animals, right? So I have the same breakdown for the sauropods, the predator dinosaurs. So to give you perspective, I'm going to give you kind of an outline of this concept, right? So initially, when looking for dinosaurs, predator dinosaurs, there were two major branches. The carnosaurs, which are animals like Allosaurus, something you're familiar with, you know Carnosaurus. And then there's this thing called the Coelurosaurs. So the Coelurosaurs initially were thought to be just any small predator. So an example of this would be, you'll never guess, in the Jurassic World line, Coelurosaurus. In North America, they also have Ornitholestes in North America, and to a lesser extent, but in the same grouping, but further away, the Velociraptor. So the idea was you would see big carnivores, and you're like, oh, they're Carnosauria, and if they're small, they're Coelurosaur, right? Very loosely based group, initially. And then you found something like Coelophysis, which is one of the oldest dinosaurs, and say, well, that's not quite a Coelurosaur, it's older, so it kind of breaks outside this lineup here. And initially, this is kind of where it gets crazy, because the way we determine this is about morphology. In founding T-Rex, the first assumption was Tyrannosaurus rex is a large predator, it must be a giant carnosaur. But looking at its anatomy, the way its ankles look, the way its teeth grow, different features, it turns out Tyrannosaurus rex is closer to Coelurosaurs than it is the Allosaurs. So even though they're large predators, what you're seeing here is Convergent Evolution, where two different branches of animal grew similar designs. I mean, they're very different in appearance, I can tell you that. But overall, they're large saurian things. The Spinosaurus, for example, another branch, that has some little kind of grouping too. So on the webpage, I'll have like theropods, and you'll see like different groups and have a classification and then toys. and where they're from, the time period, and all that stuff, right? So it breaks down each of these groups. So, right? So the idea is that initially, I'll throw the Elaphosaurus in there because this guy is one of those early theropods, like Coelophysis. Not as early. Coelophysis is late Jurassic. This is a, wait, before I say the wrong name, Safari. Sorry, Safari. And of course, so the idea is that these are getting kind of, well, I don't want to, these are older, these are Jurassic and then Cretaceous, late Cretaceous. And also the Gallimimus, these guys here, the little ostrich-looking dinosaurs, those are Coelurosaurs as well. And so if these are the ones that initially were like feathers, and now we're thinking more of all of them or close to all of them, but now initially, like, if you say which dinosaurs like had feathers or more likely to have feathers, it would be Coelurosaurs. Most of them are smaller and, well, what is small, right, for a dinosaur? Most of them initially were shorter than humans. There are some that are bigger, like Gigantoraptor and the Tyrannosaurs, but initially they're smaller feathered animals, right? So, that being said, looking at this guy, they're like, where does he fit in? The name means light lizard, so I think the earliest grouping, I believe if I remember correctly, was maybe it's an Mr. It's just kind of like fast-running thing. Theropod, predatory, meat-eater release, but not necessarily Allosaurus type like that, right? Then other papers said, no, maybe it's like a Coelophysis, you know, these kind of thinner, smaller, early animals, like a holdover from that lineage from the Jurassic. Bear in mind he's from late Cretaceous. There's no thought these are Spinosaurus. They're their own branch. And I'm going to ask you in comments below, I did a Raptor playlist. If you want to see a playlist for all the different, like the Elaphosaurus and Tyrannosaur videos I've done, so I'm getting kind of high-end video made and produced, let me know in the comments, please. So, Spinosaurus is that. We didn't think it was Spinosaurus. Something says Spinosaurus. So, kind of, I mean, it's kind of between the Coelurosaurus and Stratosaurus. Here's the thing. The Stratosaurus, these horned lizards, these guys, the idea how you determine who's in what family, right? So today, if you do that for humans, you have a DNA test. You do a 23andMe or whatever company, and you do a DNA test and go, hey, you have a lot of sub-Saharan Africa for me, probably. You have a lot of European, Asian, whatever, right? For dinosaurs, you can't do DNA tests. Turns out their DNA was destroyed. Despite what you see in movies, it's destroyed. So the idea here is that we look at morphology. Morphology meaning the shape of the skull, shape of the body, shape of the bones. And we have to rule out Convergent Evolution because, again, Allosaurus and Tyrannosaurus rex have very similar builds, but they're different branches of predator, right? And so to be a Ceratosaur, you have more in common with the Ceratosaur line than the Allosaur or Coelurosaur line. So the latest papers, and I say paper, when I say scientific paper, I'm referring to is if you're in a museum and you have the bones there, you can look at them, you can measure them, you can do all kind of science stuff to them, scan them and all that. The reason we write papers is that everyone in the world has to see your work. So you have to describe the paper, the skeleton, as if someone who wasn't around it and never knew what it was can understand it. So an example of this is I took a class called technical writing. So you open a box of something from Amazon and there's a description like, here's how you put batteries in. And it's like, don't eat them and turn them this way. Here's a picture and make sure this charge is a discharge. Like it's very simply, you're like, well, why would you need to see that? People have done things that aren't very smart. But also, it's a very simple, like, if you've never seen this before, if you're talking to an alien, here's how you do this, right? So the type of paper is doing that, saying, here are these way these bones look, we have pictures usually if you're lucky, how do they fit in? And that way other scientists, without the skeleton, can still look at it and go, okay, maybe it's something this, right? So Elaphosaurus, as of right now, aligns closer to the Ceratosaur. Now, that being said, let's clear the deck, because the Stratosaurs, the whole thing. Oh, sorry, Brachiosaurus. Okay, so, as if they were living things. So, next we have Ceratosaurus, Late Jurassic, North America, and Africa. But this group is its own group, right? I mentioned that, again, other videos. There is a Cretaceous branch of the Ceratosaur group called the Abelisaurs. And you may have heard of them if you watch a lot of my videos. And so we have, the most famous of all is Carnotaurus, Scorpio venator, Carnotaurus, South America, Scorpio venator from a different part of South America, Rajasaurus from India, Majungasaurus from Madagascar, and Rugops from North Africa. Now, you're saying, wait a minute, James, you never did a Rugops video. This figure is atrocious. It has 2 fingers. It's upsetting. The tail's too small. I did a video on this when sorry, I'm getting really angry. I did a video on this when I first bought it, and it was just I just deleted it. It's just not there anymore. I might do another one day. Who knows? I was too upset. But anyway, these are Abelisaurs, right? So they are relatives. I wouldn't say direct descendants from Ceratosaurus, but they're relatives of Ceratosaurus. They're like the nephews and nieces at least, right? And so looking at Elaphosaurus, it's not like the Coelurosaurs or the Allosaurus. It's like the Ceratosaurs. But within Ceratosauria, there's different branches. And so these guys from one branch, like this guy here, I'll do it this way. This guy here, look at that. We're all doing things. Look at that. How about that? And so these, right? These are all kind of closer together. There's a lot of family breakdown there. But on the outside of this is a guy called Deltadromeus from, I think, mid-Cretaceous Africa. And this guy was found by Paul Sereno. And this one is not really well known. It's only one toy of it from, I believe, Safari in the 90s, 1997, when there was discovery actually. And so there's a different branch of smaller Abelisaur groups called Noasaurs. And so within that smaller branch, like this guy's on the side, and then there's one I've done a video on before, in the Jurassic World, and I believe collect a Machiaps. This guy's the fish eating one. I did a video on this a long time ago. So this is not in the toy world. This is his closest relative, but they're from different branches. So we're seeing basically a series of cousins and grandparents. So Ceratosaurus, they're closest to Ceratosaurus. That rules out everything else, the Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus. Then within the Abelisaur, there's a different sub-branch and a sub-branch like that, right? And that's called cladistics. It's something that when you study the family tree of these animals, it's a big deal, a lot of math information, but that's kind of where it fits in. So looking at its anatomy, for example, this, I don't want to, down here's like a wattle. You know how a turkey has a wattle on its throat? So this, I mean, we don't know that. We can't prove that in space. These structures here, we don't know. Looks like cartilage growth. I doubt it's real. The animal overall has a generic. For these toys, a generic body. It should. If you look at, if you just Google a skeleton image of this guy, they're very kind of elongated, and there's a real skeleton in the museum in Germany, and so it should look not quite like this, but kind of like this. So the toy's kind of way off, but I will give you this. It has 3 fingers, which is good. It has the 4 toes, the 3 on the ground, the little dew claw, that's good. I mean, it has like the parts, but it's very, it's not the best representation of this animal, but it's the only one. So here we are. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm not sure if you did or not. Please let me know, because sometimes I get excited about the environment and the family tree. I try to put all those in a video, and sometimes I'm not sure if y'all are excited about that, or if you're like, this is boring. Why wouldn't he just open more toys? Let me know in the comments, please. But like I said, I want you to check out the classification page. I have linked below, because on my website I spend a healthy amount of time building that website, toy scientific displays and classifications. And it's like the second Death Star. I don't think it'll ever be done. It's like I'll make a section and go, that's good, and go, but what if I add more detail and I add more pictures and things? So who knows? But anyway, that's the Elaphosaurus in a nutshell. This animal's really cool, really interesting, and again, I do like that the face is more narrow like this, but in general, the toy is not quite showing the parts. But I do like the fact that they're giving you new names, new information, new specimens, so it's worth something. That being said, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you again. That's